Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Hello, beautiful people. Hope you're doing well. Today is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Great to be back. I actually had every intention on jumping on Monday, well, at the top of this week and being here throughout the week, but this week has been super, super duper busy for me. A lot of movement in the spring so far. Good stuff, definitely. Busy like the bees. So forgive my absence, if you will, if it's necessary at this point to even speak on it. I know. But thank you for being here nonetheless. So we're going to jump right into it and see what we got today. As always, I'm excited to be back on the table with my favorite cards. The black and white ones just never steer me wrong. So I almost dug into the Game of Thrones ones just to kind of bring a little, the Game of Thrones definitely spice it up a little bit, break up a lot of monotony. At least for me, they seem to. But I'm going to just try to keep it cute today. So let's see what we got. Wow, the Chariot. Speaking of Game of Thrones, right? Like, that is so on target for, like, thematic. The Chariot is about success, ambition, drive, will, determination, having overcome a great feat, having the strength and the fortitude to face any challenge ahead of you. Yeah, great card to start with, my God. I don't even know what to say. Like, there's definitely perhaps a moment of recognition that that is, how do we say, that is valid or not valid. What word am I trying to use? In order, however that makes sense. Like, there's recognition in order here for doing something great, or maybe just being great. I don't know, the Chariot always feels a bit action oriented to me, like you did something or achieved something or accomplished something, but it could just be the being of it all. That however you're showing up in the world right now is honorable. It's legendary. Damn, that's what I just heard. Legendary. Whew. Legendary. Interesting. Well, let's start fresh because nothing really peeked out to counter or complement that card. So with that strong energy in mind, let's see what we got here. The Chariot card is like the stuff that warriors are made of. Again, legendary warriors, people whose names have gone down in history, who we talk about when we are contemplating greatness. So I use the word honor, and again, was keen to reflect on just the being of you as something that is noteworthy, that is sensational in some special way. So congratulations. whatever you're doing in accordance with your being. And of course, given this is Aries season, certainly key on the initiation or the assertiveness of your identity, like your projection and profession of it, your pronunciation of it, especially given the strength, the Chariot card, without fear and without inhibition, or apologies. Like, that's powerful. That's legendary. Not everybody's moving in that frequency. Ooh, my ear is just popping on the left. Interesting. All right, so we got the Four of Cups. Somebody's feeling like they missed an opportunity, or missing out, or they're bored, or they're resistant or in denial of something. I don't know what that was. I didn't catch it. Let's see. What's this Four of Cups about? Ooh. Ooh, this was in the reverse on the floor. This is like the Wounded Warrior in reverse. This is somebody that's not feeling too, I can't help but read this how it is. Honestly, it's like somebody that's not feeling too victorious, that's not feeling like an overcomer. They're actually feeling quite stuck. I feel like a spirit of self-pity here. Like somebody that's just like pouting in the corner, or just sitting somewhere, going over all the things that are wrong with life, starting from the things that have gone wrong to the things that, it's like somebody replaying all the worst events in their life. Because when the Eight of Wands is upright, there's at least the possibility that someone, although they've been through a lot, they can still find some type of some consolation in the fact that they are still standing, and there's still more promise in the future, perhaps, than whatever it is that they've encountered in the past. There's always that chance. And in the upright, it could go that way, or it could be someone that's still, as I'm saying, that is, still needing to kind of shift their perspective just a little bit. But in reverse, it's like somebody may have like they may have justified reason to feel a sense of defeat. Now, does it make it productive? No. Especially when we're talking about a complete opposite reflection from the Chariot card, which is victory, success, challenge, surmounting, or what, what I mean? Like somebody that has not just fought the good fight, but they've won. Maybe they've won the war over, they won some battles and won the war. Something in there is cause enough to feel victorious and to surge and to generate a surge of confidence from those accomplishments. But this is like somebody that all they can see is what has gone wrong, maybe what's wrong about them. But certainly it feels more so about what they passed up, or an opportunity that has been forfeited. You know what this is? This is about somebody that is reflecting on all the times that they didn't listen to their intuition, or they didn't read the signs. It's like, when you say like, something told me ... and you knew, you felt the urge, you felt the sensation, but you didn't listen to it. And then later, you know, you can have that moment where it's like, I knew I should have listened to myself. This is that, but just more severe with this, because the Nine of Wands would be a completion, except it's in reverse. So it's something that somebody didn't listen to their intuition on, or didn't listen to perhaps their higher self, their supreme nature. They didn't do what was in their greatest good, and they feel gravely disenfranchised for it now. But instead of it just being a playful little, something told me, it's like somebody's thinking of all the different times that they just refused, Four of Cups, to listen to something that was nudging them. And now they're in a real bad spot with the Nine of Wands. That's like somebody's choices all coming to bite them back in the ass, pretty much. And not only that, they're feeling stuck, like their hands are tied, like they don't have any course of any recourse to take to either protect themselves, to undo what's been done, or to stop whatever consequences or repercussions they're incurring on account of their own decisions. So it's somebody like really in a bad spot emotionally, especially considering that they don't feel like they can do anything about their circumstances. Like, it's somebody that's still in a space where they're not willing to they're not in a place of acceptance for where they are in this moment, which is the first step to moving forward. And then certainly then not in a position to shift, to see, you know, to perceive some more positive or productive outcome, or create it, you know, at this point. With the Nine of Wands in reverse, it's like somebody doesn't have any energy. They have no creative energy right now. They're exhausted. They feel depleted. I feel a sense of self-betrayal, like they betrayed themselves by not listening to themselves. But they might actually be blaming it on God, because that Four of Cups, that cup is coming from, you know, from the divine, the clouds. So they might still, like I said, be in such a pitiful state that they're not even able to full, there's that lack of acceptance. Yeah, it's like somebody blaming God or mad at God right now. Like feeling what's the word? Forsaken. Damn, that's heavy. It's some nerve though. Let me see what card comes up, because it's like, I mean, I get it, it's human, but with the Eight of Wands, upright or otherwise, it's still a matter of somebody's own choices, their own actions, you know? So it's like, how you gonna put that on God? Like, I don't know, like, what you gonna say? Like, you should have made the signs more clear. You should have been a little louder. You should have told me. If I would have known, you know, my nose is itching like crazy. If I would have known that, I don't know, what the heck. Here's the Eight of Pentacles. There's a lot of work to be done for somebody to kind of pull themselves out of this rut, and maybe that's what they resent. Somebody doesn't want to do the work. They're being lazy. Four of Cups. They're being lazy. They're being they're blame shifting. There's a lack of accountability here for self. And they're in denial about something. What else is here? This is not Chariot vibes. Or maybe it's somebody's fall from grace. Yeah, it could be, because here's like a, like a warrior type card, except it's a knight. Definitely not Chariot status. Like the Chariot is like the general. So it could be someone having fallen from their high horse or from a high position. Yeah. And now they're on this wild stallion of a ride. Because it's like somebody kind of having to go back and I don't know, like I'm feeling like they're having to go back and I'm hearing like a few things jumbled in my head, like reclaim their honor, their dignity, in a pure sense though. Is like when you think about the energy of the Chariot versus the Knight of Wands. The Chariot, there's a sense of seasoned experience, maturity, wisdom, perhaps, time spent in combat or on the battlefield, whatever that battlefield may be. And it's like somebody's having to suit up and get back on the battlefield when they'd rather, maybe this is the loser. I don't know. But it's like they'd rather be, being welcomed back into their home gates with a parade, like how you see when the warriors return home from battle and like everybody's filling the streets with cheers and throwing flowers and roses, and it's a celebratory homecoming, whereas someone is not feeling so celebrated, and it's like they're having to go back and maybe lick their wounds. Maybe that's, recover, heal, perhaps. But certainly still be in some type of defensive mode here with the Knight of Wands, like still having to, it's like, imagine you've been fighting a good fight. Well, I don't know how good it was, with the Nine of Wands in reverse, but you've been fighting nonetheless. You've been at war, maybe even at war with yourself, and you somehow lose the battle or lose in that fight. And instead of your homecoming being one that's celebratory and cheers and all that good stuff, it's like you gotta fight your way all the way back home, or you have to return home amongst people that are disappointed because you lost, or you're not bringing home the victory, or like you're all beat down, torn up. It's like a lesser man here with this Knight of Wands. I'm trying to really articulate what I'm sensing, but I don't think I'm doing a great job. But it's somebody that's like, they got to return back to some, maybe they don't feel they have much to return to. That could be a thing as well. But there is some type of retreat. That's the point. Wherever they're going to land or set up, station themselves is ambiguous, but there's some type of retreat here that's happening. And it could be energetically with the Knight of Wands, especially under, it's like they're having to go back and pretty much kind of undo some damage But it feels like, yeah, they're having to kind of go back and maybe try to do some type of damage control or fixing, mending, but they are so bruised and battered at this point that they're having less energy. As I said before, there's like an exhaustion here, but it's also that's where it's like kind of life and death, where someone doesn't really have the liberty of just retreating for rest. You know what I mean? Like they don't even have the liberty or the time to lick their wounds, or the time that someone might even be taken to be in self-pity or any pity, or you know what I mean? It's like worthless, because there's so much that needs to be fixed, that this person still has to be on guard, like ready for war even still. And I'm sensing ready for war in familiar territory when I give the analogy of the chariot returning home to the spoils and the cheers and the victory and so on and so forth. This is somebody that's not returning home to that, so they're having to be defensive and somehow proactive as well, with very little energy to do so. It's weird. Like, let me get one more. Maybe I should move on. I will move on. I'm gonna move on. Let's see what the next pile is. Okay, let me try this. More practically, it's someone recognizing now that all the dust is clearing, right? That they got a lot of work to do on themselves. And that it's okay, I get this. They're really seeing themselves. I mean, it might still be through somewhat of a distorted lens, because I said that there's some lack of acceptance and accountability, but there's some part of them that can't help but see some lack of maturity on their part, or a lack of experience, a lack of skill perhaps, or some type of energetic prowess or another, you know, maybe confidence. It could be confidence or creativity, confidence and creativity that they're lacking, that is daunting in a lot of ways, because it's reflecting to them, and it may be the reflection of themselves in comparison to the chariot itself, but it's what it's reflecting back to them is just how much they need to grow up, you know, or how much they have yet to learn, or how much they have to change. And that's the part that it's like, that's why it's so undone with the Nine of Wands, because it's like, nah, somebody got to go back to the drawing board in some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's not the page. It could be worse. It's only the Knight, but there's still definitely a lack of maturity here that somebody is facing, that they probably don't really want to admit or to accept of themselves, because it requires too much work. Like once you admit and accept, like, damn, you know, I really do need to get my act together, you know what I mean? Or change how I see things or do things, as again, the being of it all, like how I've been showing up in life. Now somebody's circumstances are so ill reflective that they can't really ignore it, although they might try to resist or to refuse the truth. But it's hitting somebody so hard at this point that it's putting them in a position where they're almost like forced to react or respond, even if it is just to defend themselves, you know, to not completely be overtaken by whatever circumstances they've created at this point. Oh, and I think that was a page. It was the Page of Wands. That's wow. I'm gonna take that. Because this is what I'm getting. Like but the thing is, it's the good news is that somebody has time to turn things around and to, you know, that if they can change their perspective, there's an opportunity to learn something new and maybe discover a new strength about themselves that can sometimes only be discovered in distress. You know, like some things you can only learn about yourself when your life depends on it, or so it seems or feels. But this knight is going in the opposite direction that this page is facing, so it would be up to, as we started with the Chariot, someone's will to change and to see new possibilities even within themselves, within their self. All right, now I can move on. That page said, I heard you was looking for me. Here I go. Make no mistake about it. There is some immaturity here, for sure. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we got somebody crossing over into stardom, wish fulfillment, destiny, somewhat following destiny. That's what it's given. And it's leading them out of turbulent, treacherous times into something more fulfilling. Let's see what else is up with that. This could even be the promise of someone taking the challenge to shift, you know, if there's still hope. Not gonna lie, it feels like, I'm gonna see what other cards come up, but it feels like this energy, it feels like a different type of energy. It doesn't feel, but it still does apply to what I'm saying, because it's like the potential for someone to have this experience if they're willing to shift their perspective for the most part, and, you know, to do the work, quote unquote, as we say, whatever that means to whomever. But what it really feels like is the challenge for someone is looking at others perhaps move into some promising horizon of hopefulness, and while they feel left behind or left out, and that being like the compelling charge to change and to do something different, like almost the thing to kind of bring someone to the point of surrender, and maybe re-energize them to do some healing, star cards, some nurturing on a soul level, but it's still no less painful. And that's the conundrum here. It's like being incited to do the work and to change, because you see, it's like when you see you about to get left, or you are, you know, somehow in a place that's disconnected from where you would like to be, perhaps even where you thought you were on your way to, that somehow motivates you. But sometimes that can be an initiating motivation, but it can't be substantive. You know, like it can't be the thing that would sustain that enthusiasm. Eventually it has to be pure. You know, it can't just be because everybody else is doing this or doing that. It would have to be a pure, like that's what this Page of Wands energy is, like a pure ignition of identity, or even recognition of pure identity that compels one to an ambition that is what's a good word, like that is that fuels the determination to see it through, if that makes sense. That would have someone in the Eight of Pentacles just kind of with their head down, hand on the plow type of thing. You know, the Eight of Pentacles implies that you find pleasure in your work, you know, and transformation, growing pains, you know, adulting, however it is that you can consider this experience here, is not something that really can be fueled from the outside in or incentivized. You know, eventually you kind of have to find the joy in what you're doing for your own self-gratification, for it to be sustainable and for it to be prosperous, profitable, but not necessarily in the material sense, but you know, that you feel like you're getting a return on your energetic investment. And when I'm talking about this energy here that right now feels a bit depleted energetically, they're not even willing to accept their role and responsibility in their current state of affairs, or their current state of being even. So it might be more excruciating to see others transitioning in any promising way than it actually is motivating right now. But that ultimately could be the thing, you know, when you can't help but see it, eventually that would be hopefully the factor that gets somebody's motor running. Or maybe it is, you know, and somebody's just kind of going through the process, you know, even as we speak, and has come to that Page of Wands energy where it's like, all right, I'm ready to go, you know. But this is like the surrender, the rest, the rejuvenation. Like this is the state of affairs for those literally having gone from crossing from a more turbulent time and space to a more peaceful one, you know, and resting in that energy now. I feel like it's there, that's like that's the, maybe I shouldn't say that because there's no evidence for it here, but I feel it, I sense it, that there's a sense of like jealousy about that. It's probably more resentment with the Four of Cups, that there's this sense of resentment, like, why don't I get to rest? Or what have I done so wrong that I shouldn't deserve to have my wishes fulfilled or my dreams fulfilled, and to, you know, to be at peace. And it's like, well, that's probably a consideration for you and you. Maybe this is the energy that okay, let me see, let me get another one, because of course, you know, I'm saying it as if it's like person for person, but I feel like this is the shift in energy that's underway, where people that have made certain choices are looking up and weighing their current circumstances. Well, you know, honestly, comparing their current circumstances to that of which they observe, and at a place of consideration, like, why do they get to be so lucky, or why does he get to have all that he wants, or why do they have so many opportunities, or what makes them so special that they could be happy and not have to work like mules or work so hard, or and things are coming easy to them. Like, that's the energy I'm feeling here. Damn, I get it now. Not able to really see at all, their creativity in their reality, because they're too busy comparing and resenting. Okay, let me see. And it's all based on choices. That's why I hardly ever get reversals. If you know, you know. But that's why this Eight of Wands is in reverse, because it's like the cards want to distinctly say that this is somebody that hasn't made great choices, or hasn't done well with their energy and their time. Their creativity maybe has been put to use in ways that are not productive, or at least may have even been destructive, to themselves, maybe to others, but at least not the most productive. And then want to blame everyone else, including God, as to why they're not seeing any fruit for their labor. It's like, well, where were you sowing? What were you sowing? What seeds? Into what soil, But what were they doing that was so great? How is it that they see? And then I'm going to say this, because I was going to wait till I got another card, but I feel like that's what's happening. That could happen in so many different ways. It can happen culturally, coming soon to a reality near you, or it could happen spiritually, energetically. And I see it could happen, white versus white to black, or white to, colored folks, particularly black and white though, because black people are definitely in a star phase right now, for the most part. There's prosperity on the rise, for sure. And so it could definitely invoke a resentment from those that have been used to feeling more privilege and favor, without even consideration, you know what I mean? And the thing is, it doesn't mean that one culture's, this is the problem why we are where we are now, is that the imbalance of it all, because one culture is finally being uplifted to just a righteous place of righteous presence, it doesn't mean that everyone or anyone else has to falter. There's room for everyone to live their best life, and that's the point that needs to be driven home in the disparity of life experience as it's rebalancing itself, where some of those that haven't invested in that the greatest good of all mentality may now find themselves on a frequency that is unfavorable, to ultimately come to the determination of where there's room to have change, to change or shift your perspective and do something different. That's what it comes down to for me. Now, you can choose to do that, or you can refuse, and that's between you and the divine. But this is the rebalancing and the reset of universal order as it is. And you can, as I say, either get with it or get lost. But I can also see that spiritually happening, especially when you consider like religion, in light of the rise of spirituality, where everyone in most people in a religious capacity, a organized religious capacity, feel that they are right and righteous for how they practice what they believe, and you absolutely should. But the thing is, there's having that perspective, and then there's also adding the judgment aspect against anyone else who holds that same liberty to believe, fervently in whatever it is that they believe. And I feel like it's going to be a lot of shock and awe, let's just call it how it is. Let's say Christianity. There's going to be a lot of shock and awe as Christians observe that they're not the only ones entering into the kingdom of God and heaven as it is on earth, that they're not the only ones inhabiting that favor. And in some ways, they might actually be experiencing that they're not inhabiting that favor, and they'll look and see that others are and feel slighted. That's that blaming God thing. Secretly though, because some won't have the nerve to actually blame God. What they'll do is call it demonic, and these people are only being uplifted, or what's the word I used about black people? Uplifted is the idea, but I forget the word that I used. But they're only being lifted up because of they'll either blame it on some demonic works or some conspiracy of the devil to trick people to think that way is right or this way is right, and to pretty much deter people from a path of organized religion in whatever form or fashion it is, but I feel like that's going to also be an aspect of this. What I'm seeing here is when people are observing that who they always thought was the ideal candidate for the kingdom of God, or the inhabitants of so-called heaven. Even just the revelation that heaven is here, when it starts to really show itself. Through people's experiences and the lives that they're living, it's going to have a great shock value to some that pretty much felt like they had, the market cornered on God and on all blessings thereof. So, and then what's that also going to do but bring them back to one to see where there may have been some errors in their perspective, or some opportunities for change, for evolution, and for maturity. The maturity is the evolution aspect. To change your energy. Maybe denounce prejudice, and judgment, condemnation, even unto self, once again. Yeah, so that's an interesting idea of it all. Let me try to get one more here, and then I'm going to move to the next. Yeah, because it's going to be hard, because it's going to be hard to see people that you have, taken liberty to kind of condemn from favor, in any holy sense, particularly actually winning in life without it feeling like a reflection of your wrongness, or your of you feeling condemned in some way, and then what would you do but compensate by feeling like this must be some demonic trick or some demonic inflection. And that'll be the sad part for those that hold fast to that mentality without seeing the handwriting on the wall, because those are the ones that will ultimately miss out on having their own experience, this crossover moment for themselves, because they refuse to see that, it's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new wave. Those will be the ones that condemn everyone doing well in this climate for some sinister reason, and will still wait patiently for the sky to crack in their favor, if you feel me. You know, when it's that revival and revelation is coming from within, but they will have missed it. Four of Cups, looking for it outside of themselves. Damn. Okay. You know what? I'm going to move on to the next. Yeah, let's get this third pile popping. That was almost the Six of Cups, though, like that. And the Five of Cups right after, which makes sense because I was going to say, like, people being kind of holding on to old ideals and old influences, mentalities, you know, ways of being in life, you know, things that make them feel like old security, so to speak. That's the Three of Cups, but we're not there yet. That was the Three of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles. That's the celebration in independence and sovereignty right there. All right, so let's get one more. I told you, these cards don't miss, man. I love these cards. And I don't foresee them ever. I mean, maybe they might start lifting up. They are getting a little dusty on the edges, but I would just buy them again. Oh, well, here's the Queen of Swords. Anytime a single sword is out, you can, well, I can kind of consider that a confirmation card. But this is definitely about, you know, having clear direction, clear vision, being well connected and rooted in the truth, more so on a personal level, you know, like kind of knowing where the truth begins and ends for yourself, you know, not being spoon-fed or even force-fed, in this case, things that sound good, you know, or have a nice ring to them, or even the thing, or being stuck on the things that you always thought made sense, you know what I mean, that you've been conditioned to believe, but actually figuring out what is true for you and to you, and being able to kind of weed out illusions. And also, not even the weeding out part is for sure, but also being open to new understandings. You know, that's the Queen of Swords. It's like she's got her sword in one hand, but she's got her hand open on the other side. So it's like open to listen, open to hear, understand, consider, ponder, you know, contemplate. And at the end, still taking the liberty to discern what makes sense to you, without prejudice against anyone else or anything else, but, you know, taking that liberty wholeheartedly. Unapologetically, because the Queen of Swords, and even also communicating it, you know, maybe even this might be a nudge to those that are discovering new truths, or an encouragement to those that have a strong perspective that can be impressionable, to share it without fear of being judged, or without fear of being misunderstood or condemned, as we've been talking about. Because, as I was saying before, it's definitely going to be the evidence of a new era, a new season of success, so to speak, of challenge, of cheer, of victory. Like, I'm trying to think of all the words, like just a new era of will, you know, willpower. There it is, of willpower. that is less dependent, certainly less codependent than it has been in eras past. And the evidence will be through those that have been courageous enough, also chariot card, to embark upon it, to inhabit it, to incubate it, and to conduct that frequency of energy. And it'll also be by the testimony, the living testimony of those that can articulate it in a way that makes an impression on those that might still be resistant, or maybe just a bit on the fence about it all. You know what I mean? Like, not quite too sure, even though they see with their eyes what's what. There's something about the word that is powerful, that's mind altering, that's energy shifting, that some do have the power to wield in a way that is that's penetrable for the purposes of healing, not inflicting harm. And those people are going to be very valuable. So even, spiritualists on platforms such as this, and and otherwise, wherever you can sit your soapbox, like just sharing your testimony, again connected to the victory of being and what truly does work for you, is what moves people. That is what inspires people. It's what is the evidence of stability in this state of mind. And maybe even to help loosen the grips. This card can work both ways, because it definitely presents itself to be something stable, to that is affirming, but it also can be a nod to those that are holding on to what they feel is stable and secure, and may even be a false sense of security, or something that just is in need of a little bit of a tune-up. You know what I mean? Like, to kind of just fine-tune your frequencies to what is now, so that you can function even more securely and more stably in this era. It's like when you are going from one place to another, and the radio, if you're listening to the radio, which sometimes I do, but if you're going from like one state to the other, and the radio is starting to get fuzzy, you 9 times out of 10, even if it's your favorite song, you're just going to start scanning for a new station that comes in more clearly, because you don't really want to hear that fuzz and that static. It's kind of, it's unsettling to the ears. In this case, it's unsettling to the spirit. It's like time for folks to start scanning for a new frequency now, because we're not just moving on, we're moving up. Ooh, what was that? Ooh, strength card. Beautiful. I should have taken it. Wow, amazing. With the High Priestess. Damn. Let me get another one out. Like, the High Priestess in this case is like mysterious to me. Like, what you doing here, girl? In the vein that I'm speaking of. Ooh, okay. We got a 2-for-1, and that's going to close us out. Wow. So we got the High Priestess. Hold on here. Something stable. Which emphasis on the stability here with the 4 of Wands and with the Ace of Wands. It's like a stable place to land. or to build. You know, that is okay. This is what the high priestess is. The high priestess represents the unconventional spirituality of, well, the unconventional essence of spirituality, whereas the Hierophant is the traditional, the conventional, you know what I mean? Like the organization of it all. As I was saying earlier about organized religion, wow, that's crazy how that just came through like that. But how like organized religion sometimes can be condemning of spirituality. And some, not always, because I still very much reverence my Christian roots as much as I love the spiritual nature of myself now. I love to blend the two, and that feels sacred to me, you know. But there's something special about the mysticism of spirituality as a way of life. So therefore it can't really be boxed and contained or limited to anyone's doctrine or determination. In this case, it really does come down to, as I was saying with the Queen of Swords, like what feels right to you, what is right. And then at the end of it all, you, back to one, are the only one that can be responsible for those choices and how it all pans out. So you won't be able to blame God. You won't be able to blame any other human influences. You know, you won't be able to blame the government. You won't be able to blame your parents, you know what I mean, your spouse, none of that. It'll all be up to you. That's the beauty of sovereignty, you know, in a sense that it's your choice, you know, and that and that's the thing that spiritual dependency kind of strips away from you when you feel like you don't have a choice, or that your right to life is deferred to things, people, places, doctrines, laws outside of you. It's really about reclaiming that independence for the greatest good of all. You know, so obviously for the greatest good of yourself, but certainly for the greatest good of all. Because what is this? The Ace of Wands, I've said this before, it's omnipotence. It's if you can't see yourself being conductive of such a high power, at least you can see yourself having access to it. So therefore nobody is left out. And I mean having full access, full range of power, whether you see it surging through you or you see yourself having an unlimited resource of it. It's about being so confident. Back to that chariot card. So confident. And another word for charity is love in the biblical sense. They use the word charity to speak on love, which is the greatest of the fruits of the spirit, by the way. So there's definitely some resonance with that here, is when you are doing what you're doing in the spirit of love, whether it's learning new things, growing, discovering, exploring, even in the practical things of life that you may create in your business and your teachings and your rearing of children and your household with the Four of Wands. There's a strength and power in that that's irrefutable and indomitable, I guess is the word, you know, especially by any force that looks to be obstinate to that frequency. So this is being tapped in to whatever source, resource, frequency, whatever it is that you feel conducts such a high level of energy to allow you to ultimately live a sacred life, you know. Sacred is the key here. Four of Wands, Ace of Wands, like that's where the power lies, because again, you're not beholden to anyone else's ideals or belief systems. It's like you pretty much determining your own and living by that in spirit and in truth. And again, with the Queen of Swords, back to that, it's like you can determine your own, even as I've exemplified in my sharing, with this, with that, whatever works, whatever makes you the best version, the most supreme. That's the High Priestess, the most supreme version of yourself, star card, that you can possibly be. That's irrefutable by any other person or any other entity or agency, Hierophant energy, any corporation, any establishment, any pillar of society as it's already been established, is completely determined by you. And once you set that covenant, that creed, that foundation, then you just live up to the responsibility of living by it. Powerful. I mean, it really is that simple, but not. Ooh, with the World card. My God, my God. My goodness. This is the new era. It's the new era. With the King of Wands, aside from the Emperor, one of the most determined, direct, and powerful masculine forces in the deck, creative forces in the deck. It literally is the world as created through the eyes of the man himself or the woman herself. The masculine energy here is about the directiveness, the assertiveness of it all, but flip-flop any gender, it's about taking the liberty and the confidence in that power, taking the liberty and the confidence in that right to assert that level of power in your own life experience, so that whatever your corner of the world looks like, might even just be within your home, within your state, your city, your town, on your job, in your business. It's like, as for me and my house, as the scripture goes, like we serve the Lord. And here it is, bringing it home. Sometimes when I need to transfer the word Lord for those that may not be religious or have a religious connection to that, it's love. That's it. That's all. AWE and ALL. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Make sure you pass it. Oh man, that was really good, man. Awesome reading. So empowering, like so much to celebrate, so much to be proud of. If you resonate with this energy, this is like so affirming of just how powerful you've been and how powerful you are to just continue on doing whatever it is that you've been doing, to be acknowledged from a divine perspective, which is all that really matters, right? It doesn't matter what religion, what race, what culture, what leaders, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter from a human perspective who acknowledges you and who doesn't, or if you ever are acknowledged at all. But when the divine sees you and is grateful for the energy that you invest in this realm, you best believe that comes with that's a great honor first and foremost, and it comes with a great reward. that Chariot card is the most powerful resonance of this entire message. You got the angels in heaven and on earth cheering, woohoo, yay, welcome home, you did it, you did it, you did it, you did it. Congratulations. Keep doing what you do and being who you are. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.